Morpeth, more problems.
Morpeth, more problems.
This is not funny, but I am going to do it again, and you're going to have to react to it again. So
yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
Nova, tell us about what's been fucking you up today. What, if you can share? Are you sharing caring?
So I have moved house. It's done. There are some problems with the new place. In the form of like mold and stuff.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah, this is the thing.
Fun.
What I tried to do is I tried to spend more money to rent a nicer place for a year, just kind of push the boats out thing, so I'm not going to have to worry about it, spend a year here, then I can start stressing about something.
It's the
yeah, I forgot that I live here, and so what I got instead was like a regularly shit flat, but expensive. And in the course of like cutting up boxes for recycling, because when you move you have a lot of boxes, I managed to, like, if you can see here, slice.
Oh, not the cardboard cut.
Damn near take this finger off. And that was fine. Except today, because no food in the house, we got Uber Eats in. And the guy's like, "Hey, can you come up? Because I don't feel like walking down to your flat." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." Because I'm a friend of the workers. Open the door, bend my finger too far. Blood everywhere.
Oh God!
No.
One of my new neighbors comes down and is making conversation. I'm dripping blood on like people's Amazon packages and doormat and shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, no, it's great.
That's
really
fucking metal, buddy.
Doing great. You got to show dominance when you move in.
That's true. That is true. I've bled on this place twice. I've been here less than a week. And you know, one thing I will say is, because the decor is very landlord, because it's a rental, a lot of white carpets, and you haven't bled until you've bled on a white carpet that you don't own. That's going to be an awkward sort of.
Did they bring furniture to you, by the way? Did they bring back some furniture?
They're doing that when I get back from the live show.
Okay.
Like the Tuesday, I'm probably going to have a bed back, because what they did was I rented a 2-bed, and the day before I moved in, the landlord's like, "Hey, we took half the furniture out because we were trying to sell it at the same time as rent it, and we had the furniture there to like advertise it, so I had to get kind of legal on them, and so now they're sort of like response to that as well. We'll put one of the beds, back in. So
we'll give you half a bed.
Yeah.
We'll give you the front half of the bed.
We're not going to tell you what half it is exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get back to them with, okay, where's the other one? And why is there so much fucking mold in here? So yeah, it's great. It's been going great. I hope that the collection of toxic mold spores currently piloting my body still good at podcasting.
Well, if your flu game was anything to go by for the last episode of my life,
we're going to be fine.
Exactly. We're
fine.
Fingers crossed. Yeah,
that was a fun episode. People have enjoyed that. The Tom episode that's gone down. That seems to have gone down very well.
One other thing I will note is because of the new mixer, I have like fader like slides. I have to mix the drops down myself manually. So if you want the news to fade out, I have to do like that.
Oh, you have like a lever with like a really nice smooth motion.
It is really smooth, but the problem is if I bring it back up too quickly. So I have to remember to turn the thing off.
Oh God, yeah.
It's like it's going to be a whole thing.
That is some mental effort. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did some volunteer work at Fairfax County Public Access Television when I was in high school, and I got to run the camera switcher, and it had a transition lever to let you transition between two different inputs.
I've got one of those too.
That lever was so smooth.
Nice.
It was incredible.
No, I'm expecting you to lift up the box with the lever.
I'm not moving this fucking thing.
I'm transitioning his lever.
Yeah, No, I'm not touching this. I installed it. I got it working well enough. There is theoretically a kind of a multi-track thing that I can do so that you guys hear a processed recording and what's recorded isn't. But I don't want to do that. That's too much work. So
fair enough.
We just go with this and see how it works. Should we do a sync point?
Yes.
Yeah, I was waiting for a break in the conversation to mention.
Sorry.
We're going to do 3, 2, 1, mark.
Yeah.
That's 3, 2, 1, mark. Okay. Hello, and welcome to Well, There's Your Problem.
Oh my
It's
God.
a podcast about engineering disasters,
And PowerPoint.
which in and of itself is a disaster. With slides. I'm Justin Rosniak. I'm the person who's talking right now. My pronouns are he and him. Okay, go.
I'm November Kelly. I'm the person who's talking now. My pronouns are she and her. Yay, Liam.
Yay, Liam. Hi, I'm Liam McAnderson. My pronouns are he, him, and fuck Microsoft. With us is our fourth. I don't know what you are, man. Introduce
I think I'm the
yourself.
7th or
Gareth.
possibly 8th co-host. Yeah, my name is Gareth Dennis. My pronouns are he and him.
Nice. Also, if I sound different this episode, it's because I have a new mixer, which I hope to God is working. There will be some adventures with the drops if I try and get them to work.
Oh yeah. Oh, and actually, yeah, in front of us right now, I have to do this bit because I've created something.
Yeah, there's a beautiful cottage.
yes.
3,500 PCM.
Yeah,
it's got a new extension.
Yeah,
Got
someone has
got
put some
sort of,
train in a
top-
garden.
Thomas comes to breakfast type situation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the free high-vis vests where they're sort of like sort of viz.
They're like the little boob tube kind of crop top type situation. Yeah,
That's quite cunty. Yeah, they're sort of
It
like
is quite
cropped
cunty. It
high-vis.
is.
Yeah.
They're like the
Made it
cop with
himself.
the old-fashioned like bobby hat and the little cunty sort of boob tube type high vis. Yeah, it's.
Do they
My
still
man
make
is
those?
serving.
Please say yes. I badly need to see
I
like
don't think that they do.
actual retro reflective like vest that
cropped vest,
stops
yeah.
at the tits. Yeah.
So here's
Yeah.
the thing. I have been searching for one of these for years. I have a BR vintage gilet, but I desperately want the BR vintage crop top. And I have yet to successfully find one.
getting
hunt
like
continues.
beach body ready with British
Yeah,
Round.
exactly right. Yeah. I get the dad bod hangs out underneath the boob tube. It's beautiful. I quite like that. Just the guy in a t-shirt stood on the side of a Mark III coach in the right of shot here.
I don't even know if that's a t-shirt. I think that might predate t-shirts. That might be a man in like shirt sleeve order. You know,
Is he like, he's
with
in
a
rugby
hairline
shirt,
they
yeah.
don't make in this country anymore.
I'm
Like
just imagining all these guys, you know, they just cut off the sleeves of like orange t-shirts and turn them into tank
Go to
tops. You
town.
know?
yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
is
exactly.
is the house supposed to look like this?
No, it's not supposed to have these in it.
Dear. Okay.
Those
All
are
right.
an unnecessary and indeed unwanted addition.
This man
And
is
we'll
standing
explain
on
why.
the side of a train, isn't he? Oh, that's very bad.
Yes,
But
and the train's
I
also
see
really
that-
mucky.
Yeah, it's done some like landscaping is what it's done.
Yeah, the garden is
yes.
a different shape to what the garden was before as well. I like this picture. It's quite funny to me.
Oh yeah.
And we're going to explain why this has happened. But first, we have announcements.
We do.
We do have announcements.
Oh yeah, what was the song we decided last time?
I don't remember that one's stored on the old mixer. People think it was just me making those noises, but no, it was a complex program.
We still are on tour next year.
Yes.
We've sold a lot of tickets.
But we need to sell more. Please.
Yeah,
well,
weirdly, the place where we need to sell more is New York City, which I understand there's a lot of New York City, but I understand that there's a lot of people in New York City, and some
Yes.
of them aren't coming to the live shows, which they should do. They should buy tickets now. The link's in the description.
Yes, we have Sony Hall. We still have tickets available for the April 29th show there.
Sony Hall, are we allowed to call ourselves Broadway performers after that?
I'm going to anyway.
No.
Broadway
those are two
performer,
different answers.
plane crash survivor, other
It was-
qualities.
It was formerly a Broadway theater, but it is no longer.
Did they move it? Did they
Do you
pick
have
it
to
up and move it?
deconsecrate
Like,
it? Is it you have to
deconsecrating
No.
the Broadway theater?
No,
They
no,
take
no,
the
it is
secondary relic
actually-
of Judy Garland out of
it
it?
is essentially a deconsecration situation. Yeah.
Fuck.
To the best of my
Jesus.
knowledge.
Can I-
'cause
can
if
I
you're
describe
not, you're
myself?
not doing, musical theater there. It's not a Broadway theater.
What if I sing? What if I do a song?
Yeah,
what if I put a song in the show?
We're gonna say
if we hire Lin-Manuel Miranda to
Ross,
make there's your problem. The musical.
Do some raps about the
6 Days of Sodom tour, the hip opera on ice. Yes, Ross, you could sing the what's the opera? The Gilbert and Sullivan opera.
We'll begin the Major General song.
Yeah, Ross,
you just do the Major General song.
Obviously, like a boxing match, we'll begin each show with a sort of mandatory singing of the national anthem.
Yes,
I think that'd be very funny to do.
So that's New York. How's the Fillmore looking? Has it been filled more?
It has been filled more, but keep filling it. We need you to keep filling it.
You still got to keep filling the Fillmore. Yeah, there's still a lot of tickets there. Unfortunately, both Somerville shows sold out because I don't know. People in New England are freaks.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
It's just you give them something to do in summer, and in the depths of a New England winter, they'll pay for anything. You know, it's what we're selling them is a warm evening indoors. You know,
some hope.
There is also still tickets available in Washington D.C.
Yeah, federal surveillance agents, please make your way to the historic. I forget the name of the theater.
It's not a historic theater. It was a trolley car barn.
And we're gonna get it. We're gonna get, I assume, some sort of in-depth building tour.
Yeah, if you're in the Marine barracks that are adjacent to it, buy some tickets because it's right there. I'll see if I can get crayons in the bar menu.
Just a little martini with a crayon sticking out of it.
Yeah. It's like what Applebee's did the Mountain Dew martini with the or was it Buffalo Wild Wings that had the Dorito what's that called? Garnish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we will be searching people on the door to make sure that they don't have any charms with them. It will be marine safe. You know, like how some movies have like an autism friendly screening of stuff. This will be a marine friendly show.
It will be very marine friendly. If you are a Marine, we will not discriminate.
I found a recipe for a Cheetos Mountain Dew mule.
Oh God, that's not Marines. That's Cavalry Scout. That's
I am a diseased human being. Hold up, there you go. More smiles with everybite.com.
I look forward to like playing every possible military town. I look forward to playing Virginia Beach,
Fort Bragg,
and we just get the SEALs in. You know,
hopefully they don't say anything about starting a whatever.
Step one: a slice of lime dusted with crushed Cheetos to garnish.
Oh, you're dangerously close to revealing our secret Langley show.
They'll get us back in there for that.
Handsomely.
Yeah, we're doing a tour, but it's like Langley Falls, Fort Meade, Fort Belvoir, and nowhere else. Yeah.
I do like the idea of them like hustling us through the whatever Pentagon Burger King.
Yeah.
You can't order anything. We got you onion rings. That's all you get.
East Coast tour is happening.
Please come to
buy tickets, especially in Philadelphia, because again, we need to fill more seats in the Fillmore. You bought enough tickets that it's early to say, but another tour will probably follow in a different geographical location.
Yeah, this is the thing. If you can't make it to the East Coast but you still want to see us, then your ability to
me.
That too. But your ability to either travel to it or encourage people who are local to buy tickets will directly impact our likelihood of coming to your location.
Yes.
So, put your thumb on the scales there, please.
Yeah.
Because I want to see more of these United States,
Yeah. Never a better time to go to Duluth, Minnesota.
Where we're going.
I think there have been better times given the news about the shit that's happening to trans women in Minnesota lately.
That's Minneapolis. They're not as friendly there.
Okay. Well, either way, if anybody tries to get Minnesota nice with me, I'm going to try and get Tom to do security for me.
That's fair.
Get like choke slammed onto some light rail tracks,
Yeah. All right. That was the announcements.
You forgot my announcement.
You got an announcement. You do.
Oh, yeah, you do have an announcement.
Buy toys.
Asshole.
Sorry.
Hey, so I know that I just called one of my colleagues an asshole on the air, but have you considered donating toys? So the place I work, Lutheran Settlement House, I am in charge of the. Oh God, I don't know if I'm in charge, but they tell me that I'm in charge of the toy drive.
You're like a boy king.
Yeah. Oh God, I with my trusted advisor, so I'm sure will never do anything to me. So yeah, I work at a place that does domestic violence counseling, that works with the homeless population, that works with families in crisis, and we need your help. The same as we do every year. We are undertaking the largest how would I say this, toy distribution system we've ever done. We're really proud of it. So please donate that. And on a second list, if you hate children but love old people, we are also collecting donations for our pantry and our senior center, so that we can, which is where I do spend a lot of my time, in the senior center, helping my beloved seniors not get phone scammed and listening to them just complain at each other. It's amazing. I love old people.
That is all of their time, avoiding scams.
And they're just like, oh, will you, like, my favorite thing is it's gotten out that I'm pretty good with technology, and they're just like, Liam will fix your phone, and it's the most cracked thing you've ever seen. I'm just like, I need you to take this and chuck it into the Delaware. And I'm gonna walk with. I've got no, because your phone's mostly in one piece.
Well, that's true. No,
I just have toolbars I've never seen.
I have other old people problems with my phone.
I know. I've seen your high vis keyboard with your low vis back. It just doesn't make any sense, Roz.
Oh my God.
This is the new thing that we're going to discuss every episode, isn't it? How stressed you are by Roz's phone.
You guys, well, Nova also, I think, as a walking tech bane herself.
Those hard drives, they survived. They made the trip.
Right?
I was going to say, they're still inside the case of your computer.
I very carefully
can you run Crystal Disk Mark for me?
I don't know what any of those words mean.
I bet you don't.
I took this computer, I wrapped it very gently in bubble wrap, I put it in the back of a hire car, and I very kindly got it driven over to the new place. I unplugged it, I replugged it. It's all good. It's fine. It works. So no dramas, please. Do not like everything is okay. It makes some noises, right? But that's fine. So do I. It's called getting old, you know.
Yeah.
Well, we're not in the business of shaming my computer for whatever she does, you know. But those are her choices.
There's only one loser here who has RGB on his computer, and that is me. So
I have hella RGB on the new mixer. It's not optional. It looks like a fucking Christmas tree.
I have a limited amount of RGB on my desktop.
Do you remember when Trump was in court and his lawyer had a Republic of Gamers laptop with the RGB going?
Yes.
Just at the judge.
When we got my wife's engagement ring design, thank you patrons, they used Razer gaming laptops to run CAD. I was like, why do you have sense. This? And she, the woman, the designer, takes out this like, you know, colossal gaming laptop and sort of slams it down on the desk. I'm just like, wow, I haven't. Yeah. This is for Liam.
Yeah. So we should. We've derailed ourselves spectacularly. We've not even reached
right into someone's garden.
We're still in the garden. We need to escape the garden and talk about the doggone news.
The doggone news.
The doggone news. The gosh darn news. There we go.
Sorry, Devin, you don't have to edit the Karen again this time. Thanks for doing it last time. It was very funny.
I have to fade that down manually, by the way. I hope you realize.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Matt Gaetz.
The sort of highly pompadoured man with a penchant for Venmoing underage girls.
Maybe he was just buying them McDonald's, you know?
Definitely not sex crimes.
With the little Venmo notes that say like for being my cool friend or whatever. So he was Trump's first pick for Attorney General to trigger the libs and also to get out ahead of this like congressional ethics investigation, which was looking into the Venmoing. And then the Venmo stuff leaked again. And he has now taken his name out of consideration for Attorney General because like everybody in Congress hated him, even the MAGA people hated him. So
I was about to say, it was like really well known. This guy was like an insane sex pest.
Yeah, we knew that a while ago.
Yeah, just kind of this backcombed nonce was like, you know, really in consideration for the job of like, you know, America's senior like chief legal officer.
He's a very square head.
He looks
they all look like freaks, dude.
Yeah, no, freaks. For real.
Like, I know that I also look weird, but like not
different kinds of weird.
Different kinds of weird.
I come from a family of squareheads, but this guy's a squarehead.
Yeah,
the backcombing is really not doing him any favors, and I don't know why he does that. You know,
as a man with an enormous forehead and an enormous chin, I've made different decisions about what I would do with my head.
He has like a hairline like a staple. It's remarkable.
Yeah, it's just yep.
Yeah, nonce.
Like a soccer goal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a square bracket. It's really quite something.
It looks like a parody of a Republican congressperson.
Yeah. I feel increasingly, and I've been thinking this too about Nancy Mace, the
what a vile human being.
The representative who's like going all in on transphobia. That I feel like more and more I'm living in a world that has been illustrated by Garth Ennis, because all of these motherfuckers look like Preacher characters. It's like unnerving at this point. And I know it's a case of like, yeah, they look like the Thing because the Thing is like drawn and written in imitation of people like them, but still. You know, I this stuff was supposed to be exaggerated, right?
Yes. I mean, the other thing is, I'm wondering exactly how this is going to, you know, go over with the MAGA crowd, you know, since, or especially the Q crowd.
It's the steal. Well, this is the steal. We are starting the steal right now.
Yes, we got to do it.
I mean, it's not only Gates, right? The nominee for Secretary of Defense is this guy Pete Hegseth, who Trump
also
knows
a sex
from.
Pest.
Yeah, also a sex pest, like allegedly full-on rapist. But who Trump recognizes from being a part-time host on Fox and Friends.
Oh,
yes.
And who was like, I don't know, like an infantry captain or something. And whose deal is like, oh, we're going to take women out of combat roles, and we're going to like de-wokeify the military. And the whole like NatSec ghoul establishment is like, well, obviously the rapes are fine, but I object to his policy of like not knowing what he's doing in a managerial sense, you know?
Yes.
And so you know, fingers crossed for the steal. Shout out to the America's horrifying, blood-drenched, genocidal institutions, because you know, disrupting them in this way is somehow worse.
Yeah.
Yes. And
I still can't believe she fucking lost.
Yeah.
Speaking of genocidal institutions.
Yep.
Yeah, it's formal now.
Arrest this man. Going to hell.
The International Criminal Court. I almost said the Interstate Commerce Commission. The International Criminal Court.
The Better Business Bureau has issued a warrant for the arrest.
BB in jail.
Has issued the warrant for the arrest of Benny from Cheltenham High School.
Mm-hmm. While you were cheering Go Israel or Go Palestine, I was cheering Go Robert Mueller and the rule of law.
Exactly.
No, international humanitarian law has come good, sort of, and they've issued three arrest warrants. One for Netanyahu, one for Yoav Gallant, and then one for Mohammed Daif, who is not like officially dead. The other two Hamas guys they were going to charge are officially dead, which kind of limits their ability to, you know, charge them with anything.
That's quitters talk. You can do a cadaver synod. I mean, this is
like
there's historical precedent.
Scooping the remains of a guy who was killed in an airstrike that blew up 3 hospitals and collateral damage into the box in The Hague to be
I'd make a joke about collecting body parts into bags and putting them on the chair, but
seen it multiple times.
I've seen too many pictures of that. I mean,
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, inshallah, someday Benjamin Netanyahu's body parts are going to get scooped into something. But for the moment, the sort of like implications of this are that so every state that's party to the International Criminal Court statute is like obliged to arrest him and Gallant if they enter their state. The US is not a party to the ICC, so he can go to the US, he can go to Russia, but like anywhere in the European Union or in the UK, and like we've seen different states have different approaches, but like ultimately the line is, we don't like it, but we're going to have to go along with it, right? Because
didn't Keir Starmer say, "Nah, I'm not going to arrest him"?
He didn't go that far. He just kind of prevaricated. The line here is, I'm not going to deal in hypotheticals, which is bullshit. He is a lawyer. He was a human rights lawyer. He knows better. But yeah, that's the line, pathetic as it is.
He can only triangulate. He is only capable of that now. Yeah, it was interesting seeing, like, it has implications for it makes it that much harder for like the UK to continue to justify selling arms to Israel. Like, it makes that much more difficult. I mean, I say much more difficult, marginally more difficult. They will still do it.
Embarrassing at the very least.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's something.
It's kind of like all of this IHL stuff has been, and I say this as someone with like an interest in the law. You see a lot of legal people be like, well, it's not nothing, right? And it's like, well, that's true. But when you look at the actual kind of like facts on the ground of what Israel is doing and has done for a year plus at this point, not to mention, decades before this, it's grossly inadequate. And of course, the ICC has no way of enforcing this, and it can have none.
The genocide is still happening. And it's only getting more and more dire for people in Palestine right now.
Yeah. And I think the thing is, right, the US is very clear that it has no interest in using the ICC except as a means of like disciplining its enemies when it's convenient.
Yes.
Right.
And the fact that the ICC has now taken action against a US ally is important in itself. We will see what comes of this in the long run, but I don't look to this to have any kind of like gross effect on like the genocide or even on Israel necessarily. I think this is one of the ones where you have to look at it as a long game. And the sort of the punishment, such as it is you don't get to go shopping in like Paris anymore. Which
I was going to say, I mean, if he's making a state visit to one of the few countries he's still allowed to go to, they better do a lot of maintenance on whatever plane he's going on, because that's going to be a real short list of alternate airports if there's a problem.
You're looking at
gathered, immediately arrested.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Trudeau said they'd enforce them.
It's a good job Israel has a free and unmolested supply chain for these things right now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be a shame if their supply of Boeing components
no.
was not able to reach
keep them on the Boeing parts and give them all the newest ones.
I was about to say,
mid-air on the way to DC, a little red triangle appears on one of the passenger hatches,
What is the Israeli state aircraft?
They just they have one. It's a 747.
747.
It has a stupid name like the Wing of Zion or something.
Are you fucking kidding me?
You need two wings.
Yeah, it is. It is the Wing of Zion. It is a Boeing 767, and it belongs to the Israeli Air Force. Technically, I guess depending on how you count it, it's the Israeli Air Force plane that's done either the most or fewest war crimes. So
yeah.
Hey, see, that's the problem there. They got one of the good Boeings.
That's a shame. That's a real shame.
I think. Listen, we just got to get in there, and we got to sort of like. If you're looking at trying to change the system from within, you get a job at Boeing. You work your way up to the kind of like international, like government procurement side, and you try as hard as you can to get them a brand new plane. You really sell that to them.
If you're making spare parts for a 767, isn't that like Spirit Aero Systems or something? I don't understand the supply chain here.
Yeah, I don't think any of us do. I think that's on purpose.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
Well, I mean, listen, we're not going to see them in The Hague. I do think it would be funny if you had some kind of paperwork mix-up and Matt Gaetz ends up in The Hague and Benjamin Netanyahu ends up in like federal pedophile lockup.
That would be good.
in like segregation wing in like some federal correctional institution. I think that would be funny.
Speaking of people who should go to The Hague,
oh boy,
I have one further news item.
Fully cut you off there.
They're still fundraising.
Jesus
They're still
fucking Christ! This
fundraising.
one.
Did you send this?
I have never replied in anger to a fundraising text before, but I did reply in anger to this one, which was asking me to sign a thank you card for Kamala Harris.
Oh my
God, for an amazing campaign.
Oh my God!
No,
that's
unreal,
beyond insulting. Jesus Christ!
I don't know what I want to say.
No,
I think you want to reply.
You want to say some things that maybe we can't say, and I think I've already I'm touching the limit of that with some of the Netanyahu stuff. To be honest, we'll let Devin make a judgment on that.
It's difficult to go through an election like that, and then they have the gall to ask you to sign a thank you card.
What, like, no. I halfway understand soliciting donations because they're badly in debt because they were raising no money, but like, what does the thank you card do? Like, what?
I don't know.
Okay.
I somehow wound up on the Trump fundraising list as well.
Oh,
they also asked me to sign a thank you card.
For what? He doesn't know how to read.
No, if I really wanted to thank Trump, I would send him a burger.
Yes, that's it.
Sure. Yeah. It's true. This is the saddest thing about it is, aside from all the other things, a perfectly good fast food job passes Donald Trump's life by again. You know,
I was about to say
he's not going to get to do it. He has to be president for another 4 years instead of
he doesn't want to do it. He was
being a line cook.
He was born to be a winning contestant on RuPaul's Drag Race, and unfortunately, fate has pushed him.
Yeah,
I'm right, and you know
it. Oh boy.
Would not be the first MAGA drag queen, I'll say that.
No, I was about to say, that would be interesting to see how Trump is reincarnated in the cycle of samsara.
I know.
Everything's miserable.
We live in hell still.
We live in hell.
I'm gonna talk about the Sarah McBride stuff in next episode when it's had a chance to develop a bit, because I got some talking to do about that.
Wait, is she the?
Oh, she's the first trans congressperson who was endorsed by AIPAC, and AIPAC fundraised for her. And then when she got into office was predictably the target of, we're going to ban her from all the bathroom shit. And her response was, rank cowardice. I don't even need to piss, actually, but ever. It's fine.
Yes, a lot of stuff rubbed me the wrong way about that too.
This is a distraction from the economy or whatever. And it's, motherfucker, that's your bathroom. If you can't fight for yourself in a very personal, right. Exactly. It's shameful. It's absolutely shameful. But what other kind of representation were trans people going to get out of someone who was going to go to the U.S. Congress? You can always hope we were going to get someone Rashida Tlaib or whatever, but few people are as lucky.
I mean, she's from Delaware. She's there to represent one building in Wilmington.
She was Biden's fucking protege, genuinely, which is one of the reasons why Biden is unusually woke on trans stuff. It's why he's Mr. at least 3 genders. And it's well, what a fucking legacy you set her up with, man. You fucking tried to be president until you're 86, lose, drop out and retire widely hated, and then hand her the most hostile Congress in living memory.
Mistakes were made.
It's Jesus Christ. If God sent me a mentor like that, I would assume he was punishing me.
Yeah. I'll buy that.
At that point, you're actively the opposite of a mentor. You're more like a kind of enemy,
What's the word for you believe God exists and you hate him?
Catholic.
Disotheism or mesotheism.
Yeah. Anyway. That was the goddamn news.
Ooh. Is that a voice?
We have to talk about trains. It's a trains episode, and folks, they've given me the reins on this one. I'm so sorry.
The reins to the
reins
trains.
and trains.
The reins to the trains.
Fall mainly on the planes.
So we have to talk about, in fact, not the trains, but this time the tracks, the railway alignment. What are railways? Well, railways are formed of straits. Insert joke here.
I was going to say, I'm not sure that's always true. I've seen some of the Pride liveries.
Well, quite. Yeah. So railways. Ideally, the ideal railway is a straight one, right? But sometimes a thing is in the way.
So we did an episode on that.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes a thing is in the way, and therefore you need to do something different. Which is, you have the high line, you have the airline, or you put a curve in it. Next slide, please. Nova, this is a picture I took on the East Coast Main Line. And it very nicely makes and proves your point about what the railway environment is and the fact that it's gross. It's this color. This is the color you were talking about.
Yeah, it looks like an accumulation of a lot of sort of like brake dust, like mud
and
dirt.
Poo. That's you can see toilet roll in those F-23 sleepers there.
Cool.
This is like 3 minutes past 4 in the morning.
Direct drop toilets.
To be fair, this was not anymore, but this was before we banned them. This was one of my.
It was one of those things that was like alarmingly recent, like interracial marriage in America. You know, you're like you look it up and you're like, wait a second, that's too late a year for that. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the poo and the flushing was absolutely during my time of being on track. For example, when I took this photo, this is a curve. Look, it's a curve. It's bendy. The railway is bendy. We put a bend in it. We've linked up two straights with a curve.
This is why you don't want the like high-vis crop top, is you want something with as much coverage as possible that's going to, repel water as well.
You particularly want a collar that you can flip up.
The train goes around a corner and then angular momentum from the poo flings it over to you.
Yeah, poo shot.
If you see some Brocken Spectre coming from an oncoming train, that's when to look away. There's one for the real heads. Anyway, right. So, curves. Here's a curve. Next. So this is a curve. They exist, and you'll notice something funny about this curve, which is that one of the rails is higher up than the other rail.
It's canted.
It's canted. Yeah, we're going to talk about cant. Next picture, please. Next
categorical imperative that we do this.
Yes. So here's a nice picture of this. There's such vibes from this picture. This picture makes me very happy. It's a lovely Class 86 hauling just a list of varying weird coaches at probably like 95 miles an hour up the West Coast Main Line.
Just put any old shit on the back of it.
There's like a GUV, like a general utility van. There's probably a brake van. There's another general utility van. It's possibly a post train. This one, anyway. It's all kinds of shonky. You'll see that it looks like it's falling over. It looks like someone slightly tipped it over. It's because it's on a canted curve. Again,
is this what a camber is?
Yeah, well, it's a bit like so people often go, well, when you have a race car or even just a normal car and you go around a curve and the road is banked, you have bankings on those old race car kind of tracks. Yeah. It's a similar thing. And if we go next slide, please.
So in the United States, we call this super elevation. And in most places, you're not allowed to do it because the freight trains don't like it.
You just have a bunch of like open coal wagons that are now dumping coal out of the side.
Exactly. So, and there's another episode. Actually, you know what? Rail Natter is the place to go where we'll get into the deep lore of exactly why and how you apply cant and how much and so on. Because, good God, I can talk about it for too long, and I'm not going to bore all of the hogs with this stuff. The hogs are like, no, do it, please. But no, I'm not going to do it now. Another time, maybe.
Fully hit the Trump. They want me to do it. Should I do it?
Should I do it? I'm going to talk about cant. I'm going to talk about cant. Anyway, right. So, next slide, please. Oh yeah, we've done the next slide. No, not next slide. Can you leave this slide up? That's fine. We're on the slide. So the reason we tip the train over is because when a train goes round a curve, you get an outward force from curvature. That's kind of obvious. Train goes round a curve, it wants to fall off the other way. So we tip the tracks up to kind of tip it inwards to kind of cancel out that outward force. So we're kind of balancing outwards and inwards forces. So yeah, this is an engineering bit. We're not going to go into any detail. forces. Well, we're going to go into a little bit of detail. A little bit. We can get into a bit of detail because we're going to talk about, next slide, please, Newton's second law. Ooh, F equals ma. Force equals a mass times acceleration.
And therefore, acceleration equals force over mass.
Exactly.
Yes.
You can rearrange that to mean that you can convert. So if you've got a train, if you've got forces going inwards and outwards, and the mass is the mass of your train, then the useful thing you can do is go, well, if I've got an acceleration in and an acceleration out, I can therefore ignore the mass of the train, which makes my calculations a lot easier. So that means
I'm still beaming from rearranging a very simple equation. Like I got a good grade in podcasting.
You did it. It was
I
beautiful.
think that is possible to achieve.
Yes. It's really nice when you can derive like a lot of complex information out of an equation that you learned in high school.
Yes. Well, that's kind of why it's fun to show people who did this and thought, why the fuck am I learning Newton's second law? This is useless to me. Well, we're about to explain why it isn't, which is designing railways. So the useful thing about doing this rearrangement is that we can, next slide, please, take our forces and we can, next slide, please, turn them into accelerations. So we have outwards an acceleration and an inwards acceleration. I think I've accidentally left animations in this one. So Roz, if you click forwards twice, there we go, and there we go. There are some equations. You don't need to know them, but outwards acceleration, anyone who's a real nerd will know that that's the equation for rotational acceleration. It's the speed over the radius, speed squared over the radius. The inwards acceleration
is clearly a formula for generating the French month of August.
Out.
There's a cute name for Parisians who stay in the city in August when everybody else goes on holiday, which is Auchien, like Augustinians, if you like.
I like that. That's fun.
That's nice. So outwards acceleration is that, and then also to get the inwards acceleration from tipping your train over deliberately, it's basically a component of the acceleration due to gravity. So that's what that equation is, and that relates to the cant, which is, as Ross said, super elevation, which we represent with an E. And then it's over the also the track gauge makes a difference. So if you've got a really wide track gauge, you have to tip the track over more to make the same result. So if you have narrow gauge, you don't have to tip it up as much and you get the same result. Anyway, it doesn't really matter a huge amount in this situation. You can make those two things equal to each other, because if you've tipped the train up enough that the inwards acceleration is equal to the outwards acceleration and they cancel each other out, you can make those two things equal to each other, do a load more formula scrambling, and you get, next slide, please, which is on my mug, which I'm currently holding up to camera that none of you can see.
Ooh,
look, it's a mug that says E plus D equals 11.82 V squared over R, because that's the Kant equation, and that's what makes us make a railway do the shapes that it does. Hooray! Yes, this is the Kant equation.
It's so cool to have a profession that you can reduce to like a sort of fundamental equation, and everything else is built around it, you know?
It is. I like
all
this,
the rest
which is why I put it on a mug.
Study it.
Yeah, I put it on a mug because I like it so much. Yeah, so this is basically like the amount that you tip the amount that you lift one rail above the other determines how fast a train can go around a curve, basically, for a given radius and such and such and such. And if you've got things like, well, acceleration due to gravity is a constant, the track gauge is a constant, and also the conversion from like meters to kilometers is a constant, then you can smoosh all those together and you get the 11.82 number.
Is that how you call it, smooshing it together? Is that the technical
That's
term?
the official term, is smooshing,
Okay.
smooshing it together.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when we build a railway, we don't apply equilibrium Kant. So we don't tip the tracks up so much that they equal, that we cancel out the outwards accelerations, because that's bad for a variety of reasons. Including, as you said earlier, freight goes slower than passenger stuff. So you might
be in a situation where, like, if you stop there, it tips over.
Yeah, well, it certainly does a lot of mess to the low rail, and you get a lot of horrible shelling, and you wreck your subgrade, and you maybe split your sleepers, and all sorts of bad things. And in fact, the next slide, please, is very useful because, well, no, it's not. This is all the stuff that then tells me.
Another deficiency. If you have, if you're firing piss and shit out of the side, and it's the side going upwards, what you've created is a kind of toilet mortar.
So these are the standards which allow us to understand how much Kant we actually need to apply for a given railway, and this is very fiddly, and this is obviously just like skimming the surface.
About as complicated as Kant, like philosophy.
Table 9 transitions.
Kant, that's it. So transitions. This is
length of
this
transition.
Is about,
fucking endless.
Yeah, this is it. Table 9 transitions. That's it. So you don't need to know all this. Well, basically, like this gets fiddly for all sorts of reasons, mostly because it impacts like the amount of Kant you use and speeds and stuff it's less about safety, certainly in the short term, and it's more about like maintenance and comfort and how quickly you have to replace materials and all this stuff. Much sooner that it results in like really bad things happening. But if you get this really wrong, next slide, please.
Ooh.
Then the bad things can.
Yes.
Is that an ICE doing the bad thing?
No, it's a Spanish. It's Renfe. It's the Santiago de Compostela. I think that's right. A derailment. They're actually signaling reasons why this happened. But what it did was it ended up throwing a train at way too high a speed around a very tight curve. And I should have done a content warning. If you don't like trains smashing up, this is not the episode for you. Not
loving the fuck this webcam in particular angle.
That webcam did not survive to tell any more tales. This is bad, folks. So if a general rule of thumb, this will be useful, is that going around a curve, you can generally go around a curve about twice the design speed in a train. I wouldn't recommend trying this too often, but you can generally
frightening, but not lethal to webcams or passengers.
Yeah, so you can exactly. So like if you're below twice the design speed, the chances are you're doing all right. Obviously that varies on a lot of things, but that's a rough rule of thumb, right? So
half listening to that and my train driver orientation, being like, okay, cool, gun it, you know,
got it. Yeah, okay, good. Design speed plus a bit. Yeah, no, like the reason I say that is just to give an indication of like we don't design curves on the edge of you might derail. We're designing them way below that because obviously you're putting a lot of extra force into the rails if you're driving this fast. Right. Yeah, exactly. So we don't have to look at this horrible smash anymore. We're going to look at something even more horrible. Next slide, please.
It's made of the mold that there is in Maya flats. This is what the country looks like from space. People don't tell you this.
It looks like a scab. This picture looks like a grayscale scab, and rightly so, because of course we're looking at a picture of Britain, and also Northern Ireland is attached as well.
The north of Ireland.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry, correct. Yeah, the north of Ireland is also in this picture for some reason. Yeah, so this is Britain. It's very soggy. It's very smelly. It's quite small and quite hilly. So if, say, it's the early 1800s and you're building a nascent railway network, and you've decided that you think it's a good idea to link like London to Scotland. Roz, can you John Madden London for me?
It's like here-ish, right?
Yeah, here's your geography testing. Yeah, like
that's not bad. Yeah,
yeah. That's it.
You're a little bit west. You've hit like kind of
you're like a little bit into like Thames,
like here-ish.
Yeah.
There we go.
Now the bigger test. Can you circle Scotland, please?
Where's this line
that's
going?
Easier. Yeah. That's
Scotland,
right? Like more south. There's more. No, we have more territory than that. We fought hard for that bloody territory.
Hold on, is it like here-ish as well?
Yes, that's more like it.
Okay. I was like, where do the mountains start? You know,
basically, I like the fact that we have stolen a little bit of Northumberland there, which is very pleasing to me. So yeah, fuck you, Berwick. We've got you back, you pricks.
Abby furious.
Yeah,
look, I don't know. I think y'all are gonna do a better job with Newcastle than the English can do.
So you'll notice something about this.
Tyne and Weir Metro.
Exactly. Yeah. That I do quite like that. Although the old trains are going, which means that the new trains don't let you sit at the front and pretend you're the driver, which makes me very sad.
Oh, bummer.
I know. Why do they
do
take
a
the nice
Newcastle show?
Yes.
Yeah, come to Britain.
Yeah, do that. So this map, by the way, is a topographical map. So it's showing where things are hilly and where things are not hilly. You'll notice on the east of England, if you're going from Scotland to London, the east side of England there is quite flat, whereas the west side of England isn't. And actually on the east side, you can see there's quite a nice route. So if you want to create a fast link from London to Scotland, the obvious, this is the obvious priority for the railway barons.
You've drawn the sort of like overlap between your two Venn diagram circles of Scotland. You've inadvertently put a line right through the central belt, and so roughly speaking, on the west side of that is Glasgow, on the east side of that is Edinburgh. Your two largest cities, conveniently. Edinburgh is the capital. And
the
Glasgow
only part of the only urban economy that really works well outside of London is the Scottish Central Belt, because it's a huge area connected by lots and lots of really good public transport.
I like to call it megalopolis.
Oh no, please don't call it
that. So railway barons, they are wanting to build railways to connect major cities, and connecting London up to Edinburgh is an obvious main link. So we have to start talking about some guys. Next slide, please. Here are our guys. We come upon a battle between a large guy, George Hudson here on the left.
We come upon a battle between this guy on the left and his own waistcoat buttons. Believe me, I've been there.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, no.
And so it's the large guy on the left, George Hudson, and this twink on the right here, called Edmund Beckett.
You can really just say
MP.
anything these days, can't you?
He's not quite twink. He's got sideburn. He's too much sideburn for a twink.
He's wearing like a solid, vertical 4 inches of cravat.
I know, it's incredible. It's taller than his head.
Imagine a noise happening behind this guy and how he would turn around.
It's like Batman. Yeah, it's like George Clooney's Batman. Yeah.
I just look like what's the cat? The big cat that's can turn all the way around.
Do you mean an owl? Because there's not really cats.
No. I mean the cat that does it, not an owl. It's like a serval or something.
What?
Sorry, the idea of Ross going cat and then us all being like, you mean an owl?
Yeah, Googling cat that can turn all the way around.
Yeah.
No.
Forget this podcast that we're doing. I need to know what this is you're referring to.
Serval is a cat, yeah. I just don't know that they can turn the whole way
cat's
around.
writing reflexes. A cat that can turn a head all the way around.
Okay. While Nova looks up, I'm just going to quietly point out, while no one's paying attention, that actually the guy on the right here, Edmund Beckett, probably a horrible man, but kind of serving cunt actually a little bit here.
You love that phrase, don't you, bud?
I really do, yeah.
I
listen to too much Kill James Bond. That's the problem.
Sorry.
So I think a lot about people who serve. And it makes me smile.
Justin, do you mean a margay?
Is it maybe?
A little Mexican wildcats.
It's like a bigger. This is a big African cat.
This is beautiful.
I like it. Look at its guys.
Oh man.
Hold up. No, this is the wrong.
We are so fucking good at this.
It's really good to do podcasting.
Turn head all way around.
I love all of us are desperately deploying our best
skills right now. Thinking of? What are you?
I had to go back through Will Menaker's tweets to figure out what this cat is.
Oh god damn it!
No, we're not doing that right now. Get back.
You know what? We'll listeners and viewers, we will conclude this discussion off mic, and Devin will provide the results to you all, so that we know. Thank you, Devin. So that we know what the hell is Roz is talking about, because at the moment none of us do.
No.
So the thing about these two boys, Hudson and Beckett, Hudson is known as kind of like the railway king. He'd overseen several railway companies to kind of form a network centered around York, actually, the city that I am in, the old York. He kind of this guy was pretty vicious corporate operating wise in the way that like early Victorians were. They were all maniacs. Included, so he built a railway network, and it included a link to the Scottish border at Berwick.
Snuff and brandy.
Yeah, exactly. Like the things he was doing to his brain would make anyone a maniac, in fairness. So it connected, his vast network connected to the North British Railway, which went from Edinburgh to Berwick, which he had also part financed, by the way. And southwards, he had linked his railway to the Midland Railway at Normanton, which meant that he had a London connection. He had built a railway, or part financed and made negotiations to get trains that could run from Edinburgh to London.
Weeping because we don't know how to do this anymore, it seems like.
Yes, this is it. Beckett, meanwhile, in a flex that today's MPs still insist on pursuing, he was the richest guy in Doncaster, the northern city of Doncaster, and he was MP for the West Riding of Yorkshire.
Resisting a cruel joke about Doncaster there.
There are so many cruel jokes about Doncaster, a place I have a soft spot for, but the centre of Doncaster is an absolute dump. It's dreadful. Sorry, everyone in Doncaster.
You deserve to suffer.
Yeah, this is the thing. And he was MP, so he was the richest guy in the city and its MP. Normal situation. He wanted a more direct route to London that didn't faff about getting wibbly in Derbyshire. Hudson, so he basically started putting forward some railway proposals.
Like, fuck Derbyshire,
fuck
mines,
fuck
fuck shoes, don't care, you know.
Derby, we'll come back to Derby in a second because it clearly makes him angry. So he put forward a plan that was basically a straight line from Doncaster straight, and York straight to London.
He was one of the like high-speed rail diagrams guys. He would have been a poster.
Because the thing, we looked at Britain and it was flat on that side, so it makes some sense. The only problem is there's basically no population between like York and Doncaster and London. If we ignore Peterborough, whatever, no one cares about Peterborough. Going straight through Peterborough, straight line to London. Right, so Hudson was not happy about this because it would directly compete with his route that he'd just spent a lot of time and political effort creating. And as often happened with early railways in the 1830s and 40s, shenanigans ensued, including an episode where Beckett and Hudson like had a shouting match in Derby Station where Beckett called Hudson a blackguard.
Thems were fighting words back in the day.
Exactly. Calling someone a blackguard is like, is it a slur? It might be a slur. I don't know. Is that I hope it's not a slur.
That's based on my deep understanding of this stuff, which is having watched Barry Lyndon, a film set in a different century. Actually set in the same century, so it's all good. Having watched Barry Lyndon, that's a dueling offense.
Yes, exactly. Calling someone a blackguard
dawn.
is like, oh. So 1845, they were shouting at each other in Derby Station, which people always shout at each other at Derby Station. So it's something that's gone through the ages. But anyway, after much
engaging in telling Jacob Rees-Mogg I'm engaging in like Victorian values, having a fight in Derby train station.
Exactly.
I found the cat.
What is it? Tell me about this cat.
It's a serval. It has a very long neck.
Yeah, that was our first guess.
Serval.
Yeah, we know.
Oh, and its ears are the size of its head.
We already looked at it.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's
adorable.
a handsome little.
But there's one that goes around Twitter every once in a while where one of them is like turned all the way around.
Okay.
Backwards head.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I like these animals. This is a good.
Look at
good
the
feline
ears
right here. Yeah.
He's got some big ears. He's got some. I imagine just a little bit larger than an ordinary cat. Probably more violent as well.
Very
that's a cat that will
face.
tear your throat straight out of your neck. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well,
show one of these to Milkshake and be like, look at your, look at your compatriots and feel a day.
I believe Milkshake could make friends with a serval. I think Milkshake could make friends with basically anyone except Pizza Boy.
Yeah. Oh, I'm friends with Milkshake.
Oh.
Yeah.
That cat is basically a dog.
We are blessed to have him.
Yeah.
So having shouted at each other in Derby Station, these two boys did much wrangling and a significant amount of outright bribery and corruption. But Beckett wins. The rich MP from Doncaster wins and manages to get his straight line to London approved in Parliament. And this would be called the Great Northern Railway. Next slide, please.
Oh.
Which meant that we had the makings of our East Coast route. So if we hop forwards again, you can see that route. And it looks... Okay, it doesn't look quite as straight as you might imagine, but the bottom half of it is pretty much straight. Like it's a straight line from London to basically Peterborough, and then it's another straight line from Peterborough to Doncaster. It's that bit, the Great Northern Railway bit, is really straight.
And then
from north from there,
flat-ish land, you get some nice seaside views.
Yeah, it's pretty flat, and so you see it generally pretty flat. And okay, there are some kinks here and there once you get further north. But
us?
Exactly. Yeah. Who am I to kink shame? So this was formed of several bits. So at the northern end, we've already, the Scottish bit was the North British Railway, which was Edinburgh to Berwick. That opened in 1846. What eventually kind of is called the North Eastern Railway, which was built from like lots of other bits of railway, the York and North Midland and the York, Newcastle and Berwick Railway. Anyway, that was basically finished in 1847, and then Beckett's Great Northern Railway was finished in 1850. So you have what we call now the East Coast Main Line. So great, marvelous. Now, one bit of the various kind of constituent companies and rackets that eventually formed the North Eastern Railway included a thing that was called the Newcastle and Berwick Railway. Here is next slide, please. Here is the notice of that thing opening. Look, that's all there. When they used to do all fonts, and they've even accidentally rotated the word "to" sideways. Ooh, why have they done that? I do not know, but they have.
This is some great type work,
It
got
is.
the little
nice.
train on there,
and there's a train. Yeah, there's a little train with a little guy.
I like the difference in line weights on the N here.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
that reminds me of
that is
the
insane
label on a pair of Levi's.
Yeah.
So, so this railway, this bit, the Newcastle and Berwick Railway, so this went from the Scottish border south to Newcastle. This was like the linchpin in Hudson's plans because it would allow him to link to the North British Railway alongside his kind of emerging network in the northeast, and he would basically be able to control the whole lot. Right. So this is the problem, though, which was that the former Prime Minister Earl Grey and his presumably web-footed son Viscount Howick did not want a railway intersecting their estate.
Yeah, I mean, so listen, if the train goes by, rattles your teacups, which you drink your kind of like bergamot flavored tea out of.
Exactly, which is not nice. So they didn't want that happening. They thought it would, like scare the pigeons or make their, make all their cows give birth or whatever. I don't know. So further shenanigans ensued, including they basically created a new railway proposal that avoided their land conveniently. They called it the Northumberland Railway. And they got Isambard Kingdom Brunel to become the engineer of the railway.
Celebrity engineers signed up to the thing.
Literally, they got the Musk / Santiago Calatrava of his day to come along. And of course, what did he propose as the way that the trains would work on that railway? Atmospheric system. He proposed an atmospheric railway for that alternative.
Investing heavily in bacon grease futures.
Lot of horse viscera gone.
Lot of horse. So that was, so friend of the show, the atmospheric railway was proposed by Brunel for this alternative railway. The trouble is, by the time both proposals were being considered in Parliament in 1845, Brunel's atmospheric railway had already kind of proven itself as being complete shit. And so the Northumberland Railway was rejected, and so Hudson had defeated the former Prime Minister and his weird little son. So Hudson
throwing my teacup on the ground in anger.
Exactly.
This will not stand, simply.
Oh my God, I'm going to have to deal with a little bit of noise every now and then.
Yeah, I know, right? It had come at a cost, though. Here, next slide, please. Because here is a map. And in the middle of this map, this is a very old map. This is like 17 bullshit.
17 bullshit.
1700 and fuck you.
Exactly. This is a county map, and in the middle of it is Morpeth. Morpeth.
They don't make names like Bedlingtonshire anymore.
No, I know, right?
It just says church. High house.
No, you've already named all the things that can be named in Britain.
Yeah,
hole on the wall, not hole in the wall, hole on the wall.
Mm-hmm, yeah, mm-hmm.
It's when you it's when you get to places that are called things like Lost that you realize that we ran out of names for things kind of quite early on. Actually, a lot of our names make absolutely no sense. They're just bollocks. So yeah, that's a fair point. Anyway, Morpeth,
the town of Westward Ho.
Yeah,
don't miss the exclamation mark.
The exclamation mark is important. That's right. You have to put punctuation into your town names. It's important.
Like an accent mark, you know?
Yeah. Morpeth at the time was like a castle and major market town, like a properly major market town, actually. But the problem with it is that the terrain around it is very hilly and steep, and there's a river wrapped around one side of the town. So this is a problem. And if we go to the next slide, please.
Ooh, hold on.
To deal with Morpeth wanted to be connected to the railway, fine. Originally, it was going to be on a little branch line, which would link to the main Newcastle and Berwick railway route. But in drumming up local support for Hudson's Railway, when he was competing with this like bullshit Northumberland Railway atmospheric thing, Hudson had changed the main route to run through Morpeth. Next slide, please. And you can see the problem with running through Morpeth is that all that steep hill stuff means that you need a lumping great 98-degree kink in your railway alignment, which is it's a kink. Once again, we are kink shaming. This is a very kink shaming episode. So if I'm cancelled because of that, I can only apologize. Next slide, please. So you will see that this is a big kink, and the original route shown here would have kind of avoided this entirely. The thing is, though, at the time, it doesn't really matter that much because trains weren't going that much above 30 miles an hour. So a 90-degree kink isn't that much of a problem. So it's okay.
You're going like 30 miles an hour. You're fine.
Yeah,
This is a high-speed curve right here.
Yeah, exactly.
High speed, 28 miles an hour. You have to slow down too.
Yeah. Exactly. So next slide, please.
Blistering speeds, yes.
You have slightly pull back on a perfectly polished brass lever.
Oh, this is delightful.
Look how happy all these. So the
God save the Queen. No fucking thanks.
Yeah, I know. Fuck those guys.
Fascinated with this flag situation here. We have a like pre-Northern Ireland Union flag, I guess,
North
with the
of
red
Ireland.
washed out and a red ensign.
Yeah, I don't
and then a
fully
royal
understand
standard on the royal coach as well.
There's
all those
there's a lot
people
going
just
on
begging to
here.
be blown up by a nail bomb.
Yeah, well, this is it. This is it. Yeah.
Really on some like IRB supporting shit, you know.
So the line opened in full on the 1st of July 1847, and everyone was very pleased with themselves. Until Hudson ended up in debtor's prison for fucking everyone around him over, partly in the aftermath of his battle with Beckett and kind of defeating or trying to defeat the Great Northern Railway. So boo-hoo for George Hudson. His career is ruined.
Maybe some of these guys would be a bit better off if we brought debtor's prison back for a specific kind of guy.
Yeah.
I kind of want to send Elon Musk to debtor's prison, you know?
It feels like and it wasn't a nice experience. If Musk will never go to prison, but if he actually did, he would go to prison that's not, prison in inverted commas, and he would never stop. Debtor's prison was horrible, and I want that. That's we've talked about. I'm anti-prison, except having debtor's prison. I want debtor's prison. I think that's a good
climate
prison.
Stalin, oil executives to the fucking gulag immediately.
Gulag them. Yeah,
they're just gonna put every college-educated person in America in there instantly. Like you graduate and go straight to debtor's prison.
Khmer Rouge,
you gotta break rocks.
We have to. So if we jump forward to a slide by 20 years, something went wrong. Someone has stabbed a train here. You were looking at a train that has been stabbed.
Gone poorly.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I was looking at the lack of cab. I didn't even notice this.
Yeah, so the cab is missing. But also someone has stabbed the train. I think it's important that we really emphasize how much that train has been stabbed. So, Roz, do you want to read a date?
On the 25th of March, 1877.
Yeah, the Up Express from Edinburgh to London was making its way southwards. And it went around the curve, and it tipped over. It fell over. And it was navigating its way through the curve. The locomotive tipped over at a badly maintained joint. So it was going too fast around the curve, very likely. We'll talk about that in a second. Hit a badly maintained joint and went, whoop, and fell over. Whoops. The train scattered, the coaches behind it. I mean, it's a bit like the picture previously. Like those coaches are made of nothing. They're made of splinters and paraffin. It's not good.
Delicious.
So the train behind it scattered.
I have a question. I thought Up was away from London. Or no?
Up is
to London because London is more important.
Yes, up is to London. Down is away from London. Yes, that is confusing. So yeah, the train scatters. Bits of it telescope behind it as it stops abruptly. Like the thing basically tips over and the train sort of rams into it from behind. So I'm going to quote from the Board of Trade report because this is horrible. The passenger carriage, which had been the third vehicle in the train, dashed into the tender, lodged its leading wheels in the tank, and was completely destroyed, and one of its passengers was found dead in the tank of the tender, whilst another was jammed against the end of the tender. So not so good. So all the meat sacks, i.e. passengers, didn't do well in that first coach. So 5 passengers died, and 17, I quote, complained of injury.
Yeah, well, you would.
You can complain all you want. You have to have a positive attitude.
What do they expect for that lousy 25 cents? To live forever?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, next slide, please. So, the Board of Trade report suggested that it was poorly maintained track that was the culprit, and that the train was not necessarily speeding. But I would say, given the damage described in the report, it's really difficult to believe that this wasn't just because the train was actually going too fast through the curve. At this point, trains were getting a bit quicker. I can believe that this train was actually gunning it and had reached like 45, 50 miles an hour and tipped over. I suspect strongly that that's actually what the case was, but they didn't really have anything to prove it because it was 1877. But the report did make an interesting observation.
CSI, just some colonel with an incredibly wide moustache looking at it with a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
Did they have speedometers?
No, they didn't. They had a coach that would measure. They did two things. Either they had a guy with a stopwatch, or with a watch that he would count the time, or they had a dynamometer car. So they did. I think they did have quite primitive dynamometer cars, even in the 1870s, 1880s. Someone shout at me if I'm wrong about that. But for the most part, they were just timing things with a watch.
So we're still in Pennsylvania Railroad mode here, where they didn't install speedometers until like the 50s.
Correct. No, I severely doubt there were any speedometers on these trains. But again, someone else might be able to correct me on this. I'm not a steam train guy. I'm not sure. Particularly steam trains from the 1870s.
No one knows anything about those things.
Yeah, quite. So the report made an interesting observation, which I'm going to read, which is it would obviously be better if a deviation line could be constructed to avoid the use of so sharp a curve on a main line traversed by the fastest trains between England and Scotland. And so long as this curve exists, it is necessary to employ moderate speeds only in passing round it. So some foreshadowing there.
Mm-hmm. So we've identified a problem. We are now going to engage in one of the favorite British pastimes of doing, I imagine, fuck all about it.
Passing the potato. Yes.
I'm seeing some foreshadowing here, which is very similar to a much more recent derailment very close to home.
Yeah, quite. So nothing was learned. Decades passed. Nova, you need to line something up for this next slide transition, actually.
Do I? Oh, God.
Because we're jumping forwards to nearly a century later. And nearly a century later, we have the USSR drop plays.
Oh, God.
That's right.
God. Fuck. I'm going to add this shit immediately.
You've got to find it.
Oh, fuck. Customize smart pad. Your Roadcaster 2 will be placed into transfer mode. What does that mean? What does that mean?
I can do this in my own way, which is slightly different, which is... There we go. It's not quite as good if that's come through on the audio, which it should have. Yeah, no. So yeah, it's BR. We've got BR. It's a century later. We have British Rail. Everything was bigger and faster and busier. And next slide, please. We have trains that look like this.
Yes.
Look at this thing.
Yeah.
It's a Deltic.
It has its pistons.
Yes, it's got an engine that has
put a marine engine
face each other. It's a triangle.
Oh, wow. That is
just the most bonkers engine design imaginable.
Yeah, just utterly nuts. But the noise it makes is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a proper like.
It's been a running thing that some people have noticed that whenever I see something that isn't a Deltic that looks kind of like one, I go, oh, a Deltic. So when there actually is one, I thought I would fuck them up by not saying it.
Yeah. That's it.
For those of you who are in audio only, we are looking at a Deltic. The thing that was unique about them is they used a opposed piston engine where you had two cylinders facing each other in each whatchamacallit, in each cylinder, and those cylinders were arranged in a triangle, driving three crankshafts. It completely bonkers design.
Absolutely
like the Greek letter delta. I guess strictly speaking, you should call this a deltoid, but
yes. But Deltic sounds cool.
Deltoids are seething, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this thing with many pistons all firing at each other makes a wonderful noise, and it has a very funny looking nose as well. And they're cool. I love these things. They had quite a short life in service, but actually they're great. They really sped trains up along the East Coast Main Line, actually, and it meant that we were running trains really fast at 100-mile-an-hour speeds. So we're going way faster than they were back in the 1870s.
I like how it's just like, yeah, this is the really fast train. Did you streamline it? No, it's just a blunt end.
Fuck it.
We will overcome the air. We will not go around it.
Yeah, when you hear the sound this thing makes, I wouldn't want to put streamlining on it either. So, Roz, could you do the honors, please, on this on the notes here?
Oh. On the 7th of May, 1969.
Nice. This plump beast of a Deltic is hauling the Aberdeen Sleeper northwards, so we're going northwards this time. The train consisted of 11 coaches. It's a sleeper train, and they're all Mark 1s, which we've talked about before in previous episodes in relation to crashworthiness. They're not good. They're absolutely rubbish by today's standards. But back then, they weren't good, but they're also like not that bad. They're much better than everything that had kind of gone before it. So anyway,
we made this one out of wood as opposed to paper.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this one, it was steel. There was steel.
Steel instead of wood,
yeah, steel instead of wood. So this thing was like okay by the standards of the day. So back in the 60s, kind of as it is today, really, route knowledge. So that's where a driver has to know where things are along the route so they know where to brake, where to stop, where to, at what point they've passed the chat, when a signal's coming. They have to have all this knowledge in their head. This is why drivers are extremely skilled people, because they have to basically teach themselves to have ADHD. Which is an extremely challenging skill to do. So like
but I
knowledge,
thought
very crucial.
You could just have the army step in to run the trains.
Oh boy.
As the train, so this train's charging towards Morpeth on the downline. It passes various kind of key points for recognizing for the driver to go, right, I need to slow down now. And it was dark, but they're pretty evident. So one of these key points was Stannington signal box. And there's a level crossing near it, both of which were illuminated. So as the train goes through the level crossing, signal Sierra 13 comes into view, and this was the marker for any train running under full speed to shut off power. So basically, you start coasting before you then apply the brakes a little bit later. Mm-hmm. So the line rises, you start going up a hill after signal Sierra 13. And the combination of having no power and the incline kind of starts slowing down the train quite nicely, right? So just before the summit of that incline, was a kind of a gate box called Clifton Crossing. This thing wasn't lit. So the train reaches this gate box, and there's a signal beyond it that comes into view, which is called Delta 15, which is where a driver would typically make their first actual brake application to start slowing the train down to about 60 miles an hour before then slowing down again to 40 miles an hour to go around Morpeth Curve. Morpeth Curve, that's the episode. So foreshadowing about this may not go well. We've had a date. The driver of the train, Leslie Byers, reaches this signal, but didn't do anything. So the power had been shut off at signal Sierra 13, but after that, the driver stopped making inputs. And actually, just as the train kind of passed that second signal, the second man in the train, because they still had those then, a guy called Clifford Graham, realizes the train was not slowing down quickly enough and gets up to go across and basically apply the brake. This kind of triggers Byers into going, oh, fuck, shit, oh, yeah. Clocks back in and makes a full brake application. This was not enough. Graham was thrown to the floor because of how sharp that braking was. Morpeth Curve with its speed restriction of 40 and a train approaching it at 80.
Oh, that's
bad. That's not ideal. Not ideal.
What was I saying earlier about the design speed and also how quickly you maybe can get around a curve? Next slide, please.
Yeah.
This went poorly.
You roll the dice. Sometimes you get a critical one on this one.
Yeah, this was bad. This made a real mess. The train derails horribly. Actually, you can see that these Mark 1 coaches have actually done remarkably well. Actually, they've held together pretty well in this crash. They've broadly stayed in line, which is really important in a derailment. Like, as soon as you've got things like kinking and knocking in and like twisting and overriding each other is when the bad things happen. But in this case, for the most part, so actually, if we go to the next slide, 6 people were killed, by the way, in this, and a further 21 were injured. If we go to the next slide,
I was just going to remark on the big hook here. This is a really big hook.
That's a big. That's a pickup train sized hook there.
My God, it's bigger than what we got in America.
It's you guys need to get yourselves a big hook. So the train mostly stayed in line, which is why the fatalities were so small. Actually, train was going north. Actually, the locomotive stayed on the tracks. The Deltic was fine. It was great.
Oh, those things are unkillable,
Yeah, it stayed on the track because it was that bit heavier. It actually stayed on the tracks. That it had that much more force down into the wheels to keep it on the tracks.
People don't even know this, but technically they don't even need rails. You can just point them in a direction. It makes its own.
The Canadians did that once.
And so the Deltic went round, and its coupler stayed intact with the vehicle behind, which was like a brake van, which it basically dragged along like a shopping bag, loosely dragged on the floor.
Just no, the rest of you are coming with me.
Yeah. So the coupler behind that broke, and then the train sort of scattered. But this kind of brake van was just kind of dragged round to the point where it smashed into Morpeth Station around the other end of the curve, and made a mess of that station as well. So the locomotive stayed on the rails. The lighter carriages had scattered behind it, Morpeth Station got bashed up by this kind of dragged brake van kind of being swung around like a mace. No one is injured in the station, thankfully, because it was empty, because it was the middle of the night. So
two guys having a fight on an opposing platform, just getting wiped out by a brake van.
Like an MP and a large kind of
doing old-timey fisticuffs,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So this was bad. This was really bad. What? Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, I should have said next slide, please, twice, because the first next slide, please, was the diagram showing what was going on. So you can see that the train's come around. It's come from the south here. In fact, Roz, you can jump mad in this. So that it's come from the south. It's gone round, and there's a dark shape that's at the other end of the curve, which is the brake van being dragged around. And then in front of that is our Class 55 Deltic, happy as Larry, sat on the rails like, hey, it wasn't. I'm okay. What you all fussing about?
It's their problem, you know.
Is a brake van at this point still crucial for braking, or is there like full train line air?
No, it's still important for brake. Like not quite in the same way, but it certainly applies. It's heavier and applies a lot of the braking force of the total thing. Yeah,
I guess that makes sense. Why it would be it would not have derailed as much.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point, and because so it's being dangled around, but yeah, it sort of didn't just fly off immediately and break the coupler. Yeah, because the rotation is what snapped the couplers behind, because the vehicle's then all overturned, snapping the couplers. So next slide, please. You may be wondering what happened. Why did this happen? Why was the driver going too fast?
Crooner to explain it to us.
So yeah,
I hate you driving crooner.
This is actually Leslie Byers. This is the driver, and he's like using a hat to hide himself from the press here. I think.
It didn't work very well because the camera was in front of him.
Yeah, he just stepped once to the right. Being publicly shamed got way easier when they invented, respectively, sunglasses, face masks, and hoodies.
And also the super injunction.
Yeah, well, true, but you're kind of leaving Crown Court paparazzi experience, you know?
Yes, much improved by the fake mustache, the sunglasses, etc., things of this nature.
Coming out of court wearing the Mr. Potato hat.
So what had happened? So Byers alleged that immediately following him making that first brake application. So so far so good. He makes that first brake application, or rather, sorry, not the first. When he basically put the vehicle into kind of neutral, his mind started to wander to a notice he'd been given when he was booking on that night, which had questioned why he had lost 4 minutes on a previous service, and it was the second notice that he'd received that month, and it had clearly had stressed him out. And in his words, he took them very seriously. And so his mind had wandered, and he ditched the train. For better or worse, I don't think it's fair to this is we have a kink in a railway, and everything falls on the driver to not screw it up. But unfortunately, the driver had the book thrown at him. He was fully blamed for this.
This is also a lot of parallels to a certain derailment that occurred very close to home about a decade ago. Yeah.
They always find the littlest guy who they care least about. And in this case, it's the driver. And you might say, well, he was the one who caused the fuck up. But no, Hudson this is WTYP. You know the deal, folks. Social murder.
Yes.
Yeah. Drivers crash trains, but not as they choose to.
Precisely. What did we learn from this? Well, we did actually learn some stuff from this. Next slide, please. Because we had already been installing this thing called automatic warning system around the rail network after a previous absolutely horrifying crash at Harrow and Wealdstone.
Yeah, it wasn't actually related to safety. It was just part of a general engineering quest to have as many people exposed to as many annoying noises at work as possible, and that just happened to coincide with safety.
Yes, so the thing that makes the happen in your cab was it being installed, but it was mostly just for stop signals and for signals and for sometimes for ends of track and then things of this nature.
The first generation AWS green light sound is a rather pleasing bell, though, kind of trills.
It is nice. Ding. It's nice. Actually, I have do I have a bell? I don't have a bell.
It's a kind of,
there we go.
Yeah, it's a kind of equivalent of a nice thumbs up, a nice pat on the back.
It is nice. And what's funny is there is this, so having done cab rides, particularly at speed, under 25, there is this nice rhythm of the AWS doing its thing. We've largely superseded
Amazon Web Services and getting really confused.
Yes. Do you know what's funny is I was listening to a podcast the other day and they didn't say Amazon Web Services. They were just saying AWS the whole time. And yes, all I could think of is the funny yellow magnet in the forefoot that I'm about to show you a picture of. So these things that are on screen right now are what are called Morpeth boards. The yellow text on the black is what they first looked like. And then we got rid of that. And we decided that the Scottish people decided, hey, why don't we use a different shape, man? Why don't you make it a triangle? And that's a Scottish person putting on a Scottish accent there for some reason. So they went from, they decided to make it a triangle. And so kind of by the early 80s, we'd moved into this like the realm of the triangle. And so you have these things. So if you see these things out on the network, this Morpeth board, what it does is it goes, okay, if you're stepping down from like 30 miles, or from like 100 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour, maybe it's a good idea to pre-warn you that that's a thing, and even to tie it into the AWS system. So if you go through that Morpeth board too fast, the AWS will apply the brakes. This is a good idea. This is actually a good idea. So you get a sign, you get a warning via AWS that the driver has to respond to, and if there's no action taken, then the brakes will be applied. So this is a good idea. We have Morpeth boards. And next slide, please. I can show you a picture of, here is an AWS magnet, kind of quite a new one, but they kind of look mostly like this back in the day as well. So if you see this thing out on track, if you're in that Britain that they have, firstly, apologies. Secondly, you might see lots of these around because often they've got funny iron filings on one bit because they're basically just a big magnet. That is what they are. That is a big electromagnet that is activated and deactivated. And the next slide, please. They activate. So here, Roz, can you circle the sunflower thing that's kind of sort of in the middle of the screen, but
it's
down
cool,
a
isn't
bit?
it? What a design! What a little visual language to establish, just for you know.
So this is the cab of an Intercity 125, firstly, which is why it says in very sexy sort of dyno print stuff, max speed 125 miles an hour.
I like the 125 in a different size, but in case optimistically they ever needed to change it upwards.
I do like that.
We don't know how fast this goes, actually.
I also really like the iPad in a sort of dangly case. That really. It's tautology. I feel like I often wondered when I was looking at the kind of like Soviet retrofuturism stuff, what it felt like to live in the kind of ruins of a failed state with a sort of capitalist superstructure built over it, and be like, you can see the past and the present and the future all at once. And now I know. So
here is that picture. Yeah, exactly. On the one that you've got the one hand, you've got the piece of paper in the plastic slip. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, you have the iPad that's doing the driver advisory system, advising them when to kind of like brake later and such, or coast and stuff to save fuel. So yeah, you get the little ding.
One of the funny things about the Pennsylvania Railroad GG1 is, at least apocryphally, they never figured out how fast they could go. There's one story that it brought out that there was one test run with 10 heavyweight coaches. And they got to 160 miles an hour, and the engineer shut off the throttle and said, "That's the top speed. I am not going faster."
there is a curve approaching somewhere.
Yeah, top speed established by nerves. I also like if you look forward of the like the cab lights and the radio. Working as a train driver, you get Harrogate water in this country. Luxury, unparalleled luxury. Smash the unions now. They've had it too good for too long. They get the fancy sparkling water.
Oh my God.
You can look at that little faceted bottle,
I know, right? It's got like crystal thing, but it's plastic, and it's very, very fancy. For ages, that was like the bottled water of choice that was like dumped in the kind of the guard spot at the back of the HST as well. You could, if you took your bike up there, you could steal some. It was always very useful.
Very good.
So yeah, that little sunflower dial would illuminate and de-illuminate based on whether the AWS had activated. And if you didn't, you basically get the bell, and if you don't respond to it, the brakes will apply. This is quite a good system, and it genuinely made our railways much, much safer. A very, very good thing. Weirdly, though, if we could jump to the next slide, the Morpeth boards were not applied at Morpeth.
Naturally.
I love this fucking country so much.
The reason why they weren't applied at Morpeth is because the engineers, well, basically there was a stepping down of speed. So rather than it being like, you're at 100, now you're at 40, it dropped from 110 to 105 to 70 to 50 as the speeds ended up becoming, because we did some upgrade work on here for the HSTs. So the speed's gone up from, we've increased the cannon from like 110 to 150 millimeters. We can now go around the curve at 50 miles an hour safely. But that stepping down of speed meant that the standard said you don't need to put the thing that's called a Morpeth board at Morpeth. which is fine, right? Sure, great, excellent. It didn't fall under the standard case for doing what is Morpeth Ward's officially called advanced warning indicators. We don't need them here. That's definitely fine.
I'm still distracted by like village names. We've got a Glororum. We've got
Glororum is
Choppington.
West Sleekburn.
There's Hebron, which is interesting, stealing like Palestinian valor there.
Just what a bizarre country we live in. What a strange place. Just odd. Just fucked vibes. So here's how it looks today, by the way. This is
Tranwell. I sure hope I do.
Yep, I was about to mention that one. Yeah.
So so you can see that the trains either side of Morpeth, your trains are going at 110 miles an hour. This is a fast bit of railway, and then it isn't for a bit because of the curve. So
you're
here's
getting the kind of like seeing a speed camera equivalent, you know?
Yeah.
It's a speed trap. It's a speed trap.
Yeah, this is how it looks today, and also how it looked in the 1980s, because we've done nothing since BR did everything.
Yeah.
So that's how it looked in it. Next slide, please. Here is a diagram of Edinburgh Waverley Station. Roz, if you read the first line here, and we'll understand what date it is and why.
24th of June, 1984.
So it's 1984. We're at Edinburgh Waverley Station. Well, actually, we're not quite at Edinburgh Waverley Station. We're approaching Edinburgh Waverley Station in presumably a local train as a passenger at this point. But driver Peter Allen was booked to take the Aberdeen to London sleeper south from Edinburgh late that evening. First, though, he snuck in a cheeky one at a pub in Musselburgh near his home in Drem. So next slide, please.
Is it a crime to get drunk at work?
He had
we've done
whiskey.
Well, he's not there
next
yet.
slide, please. He also had a pint. So,
it's a Boilermaker, but perfectly legitimate. Like
shot and chaser. Fine.
I had a citywide special.
Yeah.
So he arrived. Actually, he didn't get a local train. Sorry, he drove. He arrived in his car
Right.
at 21:35. He phoned his duty manager from this wee little bothy thing that was near the goods depot.
This drive will get me sobered up. Is like one of the kind of
don't
1900s.
I actually drive. I drive a little better when I'm buzzed.
So
a little more careful.
He phones his duty manager to say that he's arrived at 21:43, and the time between him arriving at 21:35 and him phoning his boss at 21:43 gave him time to sneak in a cheeky wee nip.
Perfect.
Next slide, please. He got in a can of lager. And next slide, please.
Do we know it's the specific lager?
It's in Scotland. It's going to be Tennent's, man. So he got in a can, and then he got in. You know what? Step up, a can of strong lager, which at the time would only have been Tennent's Super. So my boy is getting stuck in. So Alan was seen in the car park.
I'm interested in this beer. This looks delicious.
We'll find it for you. Keep going.
Come to Britain. Come to Scotland.
Working on it.
We will do a live show. We will get you on some Buckfast and some Tennent Super.
Tennent Super is. I drank quite a bit of it, not enough of it to be honest. In fact, no, too much of it while I was a student, and I probably only had about 4 cans in total, and that was enough. It's not a nice thing to consume. I'm going to be honest with you. But the factory is nice where it's made.
It's a thing. It's a thing that you establish a preference. You establish your priorities, what you want to receive from the alcohol, right?
This is
you drink a Tennent's
brackets British.
You drink a Tennent's and you're like, okay, I don't want to have a good beer, but I want to have a beer and I want to like relax and it's going to be a chill time. You drink a sort of a strong lager like your Tennent Super and you're like, not only do I not want to drink a good beer, but I want to get wasted. And you will.
It's a beer with purpose. Having snuck these in before phoning the boss, in like the 7 interceding minutes where he's presumably just sat in the car getting the tins in.
Virulently shit vibes. Being in a parked car in Waverley Station car park, drinking a can of like sort of like cold but like cooled by it being cold outside Tennent Super.
Yeah, by the fact you're in a car with no aircon, and
Wait, Waverly. I've looked at Waverly before on Google Maps. You drive your car inside like the station.
You can do. It's all cabs there.
I see. Okay.
This was back in 1984. It was really, really different. So you have to look at the old pictures, and you could drive everywhere in the station.
Jesus,
back then.
really? I mean,
So
it's like weirdly laid out now, but like.
Yeah, it's like that scene where Michael Caine drives into St. Pancras and like hops out the car and jumps into a kind of a train heading northwards on the middle main line. It's kind of like that, messed up. Again,
it's just like okay, open the doors to the brake van. Let me drive my car in there.
Yeah, we didn't innovate that much with the Channel Tunnel, you know.
Yeah.
So presumably wibbling a little bit, Alan was seen in the car park by a colleague at about 21:55. And they also saw him climbing the steps to the footbridge that spans the station at around that time as well. So
I figure he would have pulled the car up right next to the locomotive and parked it at a jaunty angle, you know?
yeah. So actually,
having
Ross,
run down several passengers on the way up there. Get out of my way, I have to drive the train.
20 different marks on this map for places he stopped to piss on things.
Who amongst us?
So we can kind of track his journey here, because on this diagram, you can see, Roz, kind of like on the right-hand side, you can see the bothy and the staff car park, and you sort of see the telephone, and there's like an arrow saying, telephoned from here, 21:43.
Yeah, it's weird that he's seen in two places at once because someone's been inexact about the time. Either that or one drunk man has phase transported down the length of platform 10.
Good for him.
Strong chance the person who called it in was also drunk.
Also true.
This is Scotland in the early 80s. Of course they were drunk. So hey, I can say this as someone who's born in Edinburgh. I know what's going on there.
I think having lived here for 10 years allows me to like co-sign that. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So you can trace his little journey. So there's a little dotted line that you can John Madden over the top of, Ross. That you can sort of see.
Not as wiggly as it should be. You know, this shit was moving around like the Indiana Jones plane boat type thing.
And so he kind of makes his way along and eventually finds his way to the footbridge. Anyone who knows the footbridge, it's mostly the same as it is now.
Okay.
It comes out, if you go south from the footbridge, this is a fun thing. So this is the diagram from the report, right? From the report of something that's about to happen. And on the screen, you'll see that in the bottom left-hand corner of the diagram, they've picked out a load of little blocks and they've written the letters PH in them.
Pissed here.
PH on the map stands for public house.
So
there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 public houses.
Going on a pub crawl before driving my train?
Yeah, that's horrible.
Fortification.
Never change Scotland.
So this guy, he went missing for about 45 or 50 minutes when no one in the station saw him.
Oh, Jesus, mate.
He was seen climbing up to the footbridge that if you go south, you come out in the entrance that's directly opposite Flesh Market. Anyone who's run from like Sheen's or wherever in Edinburgh that you're as a student or Newington or whatever, and you're running to get a train late, because that's what you do, you will run down Flesh Market Close to get straight out across into the footstep to run down desperately to your train.
I am picking up what you're putting down. I understand this very deeply. Also, Flesh Market Close again. Edinburgh, all of Edinburgh is like this. It is just Dunwall. Sorry.
It really is. Yeah. So there are a lot of pubs within very easy access of that entrance to the station.
Why can't we have that in Philly?
I have issues with substances, right?
Yeah, you and I both.
And after driving to the station and consuming 2 beers in my car, I think I would at most be able to do 1 more beer at 1 pub before getting in my train.
Well, this guy was built different. I mean, this was basically the entrance interview for the Scottish division of British Rail. Like,
so how many units are we in at this point? So the whiskey, right? 2 units for a whiskey, right?
Yeah, give or take. If it's a strong pour 3, like
yeah. And this was in Musselburgh, so I'm going to go for strong pour. So 3 units from the whiskey, 2 units from the tenants, 2 units from the other tenants, and then 4 units from the tenants. Super.
Like, he's nearing like sort of. You get this from like necking like half a big bottle of vodka, for instance. Like this would be your like sort of coat pocket size bottle of like strong spirits.
Get your bottle of Glens out. That's the stuff.
Yeah.
So
this is Louisville and Nashville Railroad in the 80s drinking.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
the handshake between British Rail Scotland region.
Well, what do you think all the Scottish people fucking emigrated out there, you know?
Well, this is it, yeah.
The cultural traditions they brought with them.
So our man Peter Allen was next seen walking along what was then platform 11 about 45 or 50 minutes after he'd previously been spotted. We're also discounting the
possibility that he had a hip flask as well. Like,
it could be, several other things. He's got like a attaché case with like a Franzia in it.
He was wearing one of those hard hats with a beer can on each side.
He's got the little tartan thermos flask, you know, the little like that's it's all happening.
Got a Camelback full of Everclear.
Okay, the phrase Camelback full of Everclear is going to sit with me. Yeah.
Oh, it's just mine.
At least you don't have to worry about ever cleaning that. You know, you're not getting any fucking mold in there.
I'm not.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Remember the Super Soaker full of Canadian Mist? Never had to clean that shit, did we?
So despite his claim that he'd been wandering around the station, he was next seen at 22:50, basically getting into the loco. He hadn't been seen at all in the kind of the interceding hour or so. My boy was getting stuck in. Oh, he was. Let's next slide, please. Let's leave Waverley Station and Peter Allen and his adventures, and talk about the train. So this is here's a Mark I coach. It's not. It's a model, folks. It's a model.
Very pretty model, though.
It's not even a model. It's a picture of a model.
It's a picture of a model. It's true.
Well, actually, it's a digital representation of a picture.
Stop it.
Yeah. This is not a pipe.
This is the Mark 1.
You beat me to it. God damn it.
These had been replaced. Next slide, please. These have been replaced by Mark III coaches.
Ooh,
so the Mark III sleeper coaches. And these, I'm often down on the Mark IIIs these days because they're just hopelessly outclassed by modern rolling stock. But in the 1980s, these were still really very, very good. They were very, very good coaches. They rode well. They were very strong. They're very safe. Good stuff.
It's kind of, if you wanted to do a centrist shitlib thing, you could be like, nationalized railway systems in a kind of like in a microcosm is your state-of-the-art train being driven by a guy who has had like 6 cans of lager and a couple of whiskeys.
Again, I mean, do you want that, or do you want people drinking a fifth of bourbon in the cab of Louisville and Nashville train with 75 cars of chemicals?
Oh, jeez. Oh my God. Good grief. So this train was formed of 7 Mark IIIs. It still had 2 Mark Is, but they were the brake vans at either end. So we still, for some reason, we've got these at the time reasonably state-of-the-art coaches. For some reason, that's just such Brit vibes, such BR vibes. You have the Mark I coaches either side. So next slide, please, because this was being hauled by, it's a Class 47.
It's the train that there is.
Oh, I love this thing. It's honestly the best fleet of locomotives Britain has ever built. I love these things. This is 47452. That means nothing to anyone, and it shouldn't, because if for those who it does mean stuff to, shout out, hi, my people. This is a beautifully simple, elegant, powerful, and gruff locomotive. This thing is like from the 50s, basically. It's a tank, and it's beautiful.
It's a big rectangle with a motor in it,
and we built 1,000 of them.
Oh, hell
and
yeah.
they did everything.
We used to do things in this country.
We really did. We really bloody did. Like, honestly, I think it's about 850 actually, but like that's a shit ton of, just imagine all those lined up. That's a lot of locos. So in the small hours of the following day, so this thing set off from Edinburgh, heading southwards on its way to London. The train was approaching Morpeth from the north at nearly 90 miles an hour. Morpeth curve had been recanted. Its permissible speed had been lifted to 50 miles an hour.
I'm just going to let the sort of like rocking motion of this train sort of lull me into a sense of like extreme awareness and professionalism along with all of this alcohol.
Yes. Yep. Picture the scene. So you're in a brand new Mark III sleeper coach. The having slept in those, they're quite nice. You're getting comfy. You're kind of feeling that nice. You like the driver, but for different reasons. You're feeling a nice rocking sensation that's lulling you kind of gently and pleasantly to sleep. The trouble is, the train is still at 90, and Morpeth curve is getting closer and closer and closer. Next slide, please.
Oh.
Whoa, train on the ground. Train put on the ground.
Train on ground.
That is not the way that train is supposed to be.
No. So anyway, it's a very nice picture of Morpeth Curve here. As the train entered the curve, the locomotive this time, it's not like the Deltic got away with it. The 47 did not. The locomotive overturned and pulled its carriages with it. The train mostly stayed intact, as in like the couplings kept the thing kind of in a line, which again is
Mark
good.
Ones that's in the foreground.
That's the brake van at the front. You're right.
Yeah,
exactly. And you're right. It hasn't been obliterated, although you can see some damage at the vehicle end. But mostly still intact. The other good thing about the brake van is it's just got people's shit in it, so it doesn't really matter. And a guard, probably.
Your luggage has been crushed into a cube.
Yeah, but
apparently it hasn't. It looks fine.
Well, no, it's doing okay. Yeah.
You've been crashed into a cube.
Your luggage is fine.
Or you're just goo. So the train stayed mostly intact.
Property is what matters.
It helped to avoid too much mess, and combined with the strength of the Mark IIIs meant that nobody was killed. Which, when you see the next pictures, you might be surprised by. There were 35 injuries of passenger and staff. It must be said. But so if we go to the next slide. Here's kind of what's going on, and you'll see that.
Jesus!
Yeah, you'll see
this house in particular, and also this house in particular.
The train has quite literally fucked that house. It saw the bungalow, and much like me, who whenever I see a bungalow, I become irrationally enraged and want to demolish it. The Mark III coach had the same sensation and decided, fuck you in particular, and in it went and smashed up a bedroom and the half of this bungalow, and also smashed up the front of its friend behind, smashed into a slightly stronger 2-story building behind. But yeah, this is quite a good picture because it shows a couple of things. It shows, firstly, the locomotive's hidden behind a tree, but you can kind of see it 2/3 into the shot. You can kind of see its front and its back. You can see that Mark I coach Nova that you pointed out rightly, and the Mark III behind it. The train's broken behind that, but you can also see that those coaches have stayed mostly in a line, which has helped with energy dissipation because all of them are kind of breaking together as they dig into the ballast and stuff, or the bungalow.
What is a bungalow if not more ballast? Anything past trackside is ballast. Engrave that in 50-foot high letters.
Yeah, I was about to say that you need an equivalent to the spaceship guys who would call this litho braking.
Bungalow braking.
That's exactly what's happening.
Well, you need like a Latin term for bungalow.
The fact the train has stayed largely in line is a very good thing for the safety, as well as the fact that the one that's hit the 2-story house is bent a bit, but most of them have stayed.
If it's gone through part of that 2-story house, that does technically make the 2-story house a drogue.
Yeah, that is. It is a drogue house. Yeah,
kind of a sea anchor.
Yeah, that's it. And then the back of the train is still most intact. So that's fine. So no one killed, which is really good. Next slide, please. Because we have to look at more pictures of a house being smashed to bits because it's extremely funny.
Whoa.
So here's another picture. The first one there, you can see that the train smearing through the garden, smashing into the front bedroom of the 2-story house and obliterating the bungalow, rip the bungalow. And then the next picture, you can see the Mark III that's had the most bashing. And it stayed pretty well intact, except that it's like been bent by in the metaphorical knee of the big house. The next picture is a rather unhappy house owner whose bungalow has been demolished by a Mark III.
I don't know why you're unhappy. You're going to get a shitload of money out of BR for this. Like,
I presume
this looks like a very long-suffering man.
Yeah,
I feel like he's been through some stuff.
Guy who has just put the last lick of paint on his perfect bungalow to retire into.
I have a feeling he will have moved somewhere without a railway after this.
Yeah.
That's my suspicion. So next slide, please. Here's a diagram of what happened. Well, so this time the train's come from the other direction. So it's coming from the right-hand side of the slide, heading southwards, although it didn't manage to get facing south at this point because curve. You can see the train has gone everywhere and made a mess of mid-track, which is very rude.
Many permanent way engineers would consider this to be an inconvenience.
Precisely. Or a convenience, because we get some high speed, we get some brand new track installed, which is always a nice thing. Although one of the things that really annoys me is whenever we have like climate change based smashing of our railways,
tracks are written in bungalow.
A thing that always annoys me with like track washouts and stuff these days with climate change, because they're happening more and more, is they always seem to happen just after we've done a track renewal. So you've got this beautiful track with like no ballast under it because a river's washed it out. I'm like, why can't it happen to knackered track and then we get a free renewal off the back of it? Anyway, very annoyed by that. Always happening. So next slide, please. Because there's a diagram in the crash report that, you remember the picture that I put up earlier of one rail kind of raised above the other? Well, here you can see the cant, 150 millimeters. But you'll see they've added an extra bit to the diagram here, which is the wheel and axle. And you'll notice something about that, which is that it's doing something that if you just pay close attention here, you'll see it shouldn't be doing that, which is tipping way off the track. No, it shouldn't. That's bad. That's a bad thing that has happened there, which is why, the fact that the report includes this diagram, I quite enjoy this. You'll surmise that the wheel is not supposed to be doing that.
This is when there is a lot of cant deficiency.
Yes, this is a significant amount of cant deficiency to the point of train leave track. Yes, so anyway,
folks, you've heard of dual track drifting. This is one rail drifting.
Yeah, this is doing the James Bond. The good James Bond film that isn't a James Bond film, where they two-wheel a truck and dodge Stinger missiles in the process. Doing that, but in a Class 47. Yeah, next slide, please. Because anyway, after this, Morpeth boards were installed at Morpeth. You'll be glad to know.
It only took them, 20 years?
Yeah, it only took them like 20 years and another big mess. Jesus. And several people's houses getting walloped. Yeah. So, job done, right? Problem solved.
Oh,
next slide, please. Because that's right, this is a 4 disaster episode.
Oh my God.
Because 10 years later, on Roz, please.
27th of June, 1994.
Yeah, an express parcels train hauled by another Class 47, which
Finsbury
really didn't
Park.
come well out of this.
Yeah, named after a sort of random North London suburb and hauling one of those beautiful Royal Mail post vans.
Yes, so it was presumably hauling a load of these post vans. I like this one for a variety of reasons. This picture, so Finsbury Park, this is named after the depot at Finsbury Park, and so the train crash, so the Class 47 goes around the curve at 80 miles an hour, and obviously it crashed horribly. Thankfully, nobody was killed, but as his cab hit the dirt, the driver quite literally ate ballast and was pretty severely injured. So I would not like to be eating ballast. I actually have some ballast down in a bag next to me because I'm a weirdo. But that stuff's the size of your fist. And I would not want one of those to hit me in the head at 1 mile an hour, let alone lots of them hitting me in the head at 80 miles an hour.
Sort of a dentally complex injury. You know?
You gotta have a lot of Novocaine.
Yeah. So I want to. So it's sort of like weird. Is it hauntology or is it just fun livery stuff? This train hit the dirt so hard that it was deliveried.
They took the intercity livery off it and it went back to blue.
Oh, jeez.
It's got the British Rail blue underneath it.
Yeah.
Because this should be black, but it's just taken that off.
It stripped it right back. Yeah, quite something. So, like the depot people being like, "Oh shit, we're supposed to take that down to the. They're going to see that we just painted over the previous one. You're supposed to take it down to. Damn it.
I mean, the paint guy realizing he's in trouble, but not the most trouble of anyone that day is probably organizationally interesting.
So, the Morpeth boards have been fitted. So how did this happen? Next slide, please. Well, okay. So the previous 3 incidents all had published official reports, which means that it's the WTYP yellow with some reports over it. People laughed at me in the privatization episode because I did loads of these and people were like, God, he really likes putting reports onto the yellow. And I was like, it's the WTYP yellow. I'm trying to be thematic.
It's a good color.
Three reports.
Is a good color.
It is nice. 3 nice reports telling us lots of things about what happened. Really nice and detailed. Even the 1877 one's actually a pretty good report, actually, in its detail. So you think there's going to be another one, right? Next slide, please. It's 1994.
Yeah.
No, wrong. Early privatization days, everything's a free-for-all. Who needs to learn stuff? We don't need to do a railway. We just need to, do nothing at all.
It's not called move fast and learn things.
Yeah, exactly. So next slide, please. Because at the time, these chucklefucks had taken over the rail inspectorate and were in charge of writing crash reports.
What is this logo even meant to convey?
This is like a
fountain
safety executive.
pen.
Oh, it's Nicol Bolas from Magic the Gathering.
Yeah. Well, the health and safety executive are, if you want to understand regulatory capture, they are what an organization to realize, to kind of understand as a case study in that. So they were supposedly, at this point with privatization, early privatization, they were in charge of writing crash reports, which they either just didn't do, or they did do them and they didn't publish them. At some point, we'll do the Tesco tunnel collapse. I'm convincing everyone on here to do the Tesco tunnel collapse. So lobby your local WTYP co-host to make that happen.
Do not lobby me.
And I will talk more about this, but suffice to say, they had this responsibility stripped from them after a series of horrible incidents and big failures in industry learning. So we have no idea why that post train crashed.
Just vibes. Just felt like it.
So we learned nothing from that. So yeah, that is a weird end to the story of the Morpeth curve, which, by the way, is still there. And I've got a couple of friends who, when they go through it, they send me a picture saying, "Yeah, I got through okay." Yeah, it's kind of a running gag. And
again, to be clear, this exists because of Earl Grey and his fail sons.
Correct. Yes, literally Earl Grey and his
still killing people today.
Still murdering people.
What a mixed legacy! A shitload of train crashes, but tea.
Yeah, quite nice tea. Yeah, exactly. Tea that Picard likes. So, I know I've talked a lot here. Did we learn anything from any of this?
Well, it seems like British Rail didn't, and it certainly seems like
BR did, because BR did Morpeth boards eventually.
True.
They did Morpeth boards, but and then they eventually decided to install them at Morpeth. So we got there eventually. But have we actually fixed the problem? No. The curve is still there. Still there. 50 miles an hour. It's a really obvious slow down between 100 and 100 mile an hour plus bits of railway. It's very strange. But there we go. That's Morpeth. Morpeth curve.
It's just this universal, like, there are lots of railroads in the world that have these like really like tight curves in between high speed segments, and they go wrong all the time. And when I say all the time, I mean they have a crash every couple decades, but that's still too much.
Yeah, like, you know what? Just don't have get rid of the king. I know I'm getting cancelled for being king shamer. I'm sorry.
No king.
Get rid of the tight bend. Let's put it that way. Get rid of the tight bend.
Is it just too overbuilt and too established a right of way that now you're just like you'd have to do some insane sort of purchasing to like change the shape of it at all?
You'd need a new viaduct over the river, which would be quite expensive. Other than that, it would be cheap because the land is fairly cheap and it's Morpeth, it's Northumberland, it's fine. You'd have some very unhappy landowners, but
do it now, strike while the iron's hot.
Exactly.
While the iron's turned on Treasury and away from DFT.
Yeah, we can just get stuck in. Yeah, except that we need the money from Treasury to build the bridge to go over the river. So we're screwed on that front.
We get Louise Hay to like go to Rachel Reeves like, I have a way to take the heat off you, and all it's going to require is the cost of one viaduct. I literally have a bridge to sell you.
Yeah. Well, of course, my approach to getting rid of this kink is actually not to get rid of it at all, is actually build HS2 on the other side of the country, even though it's the bendier side. Build the HS2 base tunnels that get you from where it ought to finish in Manchester under the current plans to where it really ought to finish, which is Glasgow. So do that, and then you don't need to worry about this curve because every train will stop at Morpeth. So they'll all be slowing down anyway to do that, and things will be much safer as a result. But there we go.
Really put Morpeth on the map as well. For more than just this.
Yes. Hooray, Morpeth. Yeah, because you know what's ironic is that they shouted and screamed to get the railway, and actually what it did was wreck Morpeth as a market town because the railway just meant everyone left Morpeth. So maybe they shouldn't have had the railway go
for you.
No gods, no bears.
Yeah,
there you go.
Exactly. Thank you, Liam.
Welcome.
Roz, I'll give it back to you. Thanks all of you for listening to Morpeth Chat.
Yeah, I hope we can really put Morpeth on the map. I think this is going to be a global center for commerce pretty soon.
Check this shit out. Morpeth, more problems. See, after a couple of hours of derangement, that hits differently.
It does hit different. You were right. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, we have a segment on this podcast called Safety Third.
Shake hands with danger. Shake hands with danger.
Shake hands with danger. Danger. Roz, what are we looking at here? What's going on?
Hello, Roz, November, Liam, and Gareth.
I actually nailed it.
Yeah.
No, Milkshake's here.
Fuck.
F. Fuck's it.
Until very recently, I was one of the sorry few tasked with reducing entire mice to various soup-like homogenates in under 30 seconds.
Let's go.
It's all the old favorites with atmospheric railways, soup-like homogenates. It's all the hits today.
While in vivo research is a whole disaster on its own, this story comes from the benchwork side of the lab. The reason that we need from time to time to make soup from rodents is that it grants us easier access to the smallest parts of the rodents, the molecules. It is much easier to extract redacted target molecule from membraneless homogeneous soup than it is to take it from complex and fiddly organs. Though the tissue homogenizer does most of the work perfectly well, it leaves some microscopic pieces of organs floating around, which can greeble your data in ways that bother corporate.
Love the use of greeble. I hate that sentence, though.
There is, however, a second machine, which can be deployed to remove these contaminants and convert a batch of soup-like homogenate into crystal clear lysate in just about 30 minutes.
Cocktail strainer.
That machine is called the ultracentrifuge.
I take it back. That's the coolest thing I've ever fucking heard in my life. Searching that on Google immediately.
Yeah.
Your bog standard off-the-shelf ultracentrifuge can run you nearly $100,000 and is capable.
Looks like an old-timey washing machine. Costs, as you say, infinity dollars. I just want to throw stuff in here, see what happens.
I Googled it, and the first result is an introduction to ultracentrifugation. From Beckman Coulter.
Generates acceleration as high as 1 million G or 9,800 kilometers a second.
Damn.
What?
Your bog standard off-the-shelf ultracentrifuge can run you nearly $100,000 and is capable of accelerating samples to angular velocities on that same order of magnitude.
I note here a thing in the hazards section, which I'm going to keep to myself, assuming that the thing is about this.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yep. Ditto.
The force applied to these samples maxes out at 150,000 times the force of gravity on Earth and readily compresses any particulates in your homogenate into an easy-to-discard pellet. The subject of today's story is a shorter benchtop model, the rotor of which is about head height for anyone sitting at a bench in the same room.
Okay. I'm regressing having read the first sentence of the hazards section now.
On an unspecified day at an unremarked upon time, a coworker of mine loaded a rotor, image B, filled with samples into the machine and started a run. Now, one quirk about the ultracentrifuge is that it screams when it's working normally.
Same.
I mean, yeah.
Since the instantaneous linear velocity of the rotor passes through the full range of human hearing on its way to 100,000 revolutions per minute. At no point since my coworker started the run and promptly left the lab did it make any of the correct noises.
I leave the room.
Immediately, the ultracentrifuge started to groan and to rattle before going into emergency shutoff. I called this coworker over since the samples are usually time sensitive, and she took the rotor to confirm that she had balanced the samples correctly. I did not notice when she came back since I was busy with my own work, but a few minutes later, I heard the ultracentrifuge kick back up to 5,000 RPM without issue.
Ooh.
Okay.
The rattling started slowly. It jittered before it jostled, and it bumped before it banged. but the growl was sudden.
Poetic.
Oh, the growl is always sudden.
Whatever beast they locked in there to spin the samples was unhappy, and after a few thousand more RPM tolerating the mismatched samples, it demanded justice. But not before trying to reach its target speed of 100,000 RPM for some reason.
Fuck.
Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this.
Like an industry novice and a general dumbass, I approached the machine to shut it down manually.
Yeah, just pop the lid, see what happens.
Power cycling.
By standing to approach the machine, which should sound poised to fracture at any second, I had moved my abdomen into the danger zone where it would spew debris at any point if the machine fractured from stress. And each step widened the arc I occupied. Earlier, I mentioned the ultracentrifuge's strength in terms of relative forces and angular velocity. The instantaneous linear velocity at this stage approaches 300 miles an hour. Luckily, this model comes equipped with an easily accessed main power switch, and it applies an emergency brake if power is disrupted while the rotor is in motion. When it finally settled down, I paused my work and decided to take lunch early.
Yeah, just almost getting shot with a 300 mile an hour rotor of rat viscera. The sentence both Gareth and I were sort of dancing around reads as follows: the tremendous rotational kinetic energy of the rotor in an operating ultracentrifuge makes the catastrophic failure of a spinning rotor a serious concern, as it can explode spectacularly.
Oh.
Bring your friends over. Watch the rotor explode.
Yeah.
It's a spectacle.
Just wild. Whoa.
I cannot say how close the machine came to thoroughly homogenizing a slice of my torso, but I do know any internal damage was covered by our service contract with the manufacturer.
Thank fuck for that.
Just like Breaking Bad and trying to do science for crime, but you're like setting up one of these in front of the bulletproof glass at a bank. They're like, you're not going to get through this. Are you sure?
Just give me a minute.
When the technician was servicing the machine, I asked him privately to hide the calibration menu before he left, since I'm pretty sure this is how my coworker bypassed the emergency shutdown instead of balancing the samples correctly. There probably would have been a failure in the motor of the bearings before any shit really hit the fan, but suffice to say, this experience left me with a healthy appreciation for microgram precision balancing and the value of my own life.
Yeah, tracks.
I will note that one of the main guys in the development of the ultracentrifuge is apparently called Dr. Jesse Wakefield Beams, and I note down here, physicist named Dr. Beams didn't even work with lasers. Waste my fucking time.
Waste, yeah, absolute waste. Yeah.
Sorry this one ran a little long. It didn't run a little long. You should have seen some of the ones that came in recently. Hopefully it gets paired with a short, bloodless disaster. Respectfully or otherwise, another biosciences twink.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
That was a great safety third. That was beautifully written as well.
Yeah,
that was
thank you, Bioscience Twink.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was lovely. I'm delighted to learn about the ultracentrifuge.
Yeah, that's now. I now have several tabs open after the ultracentrifuge, which are going to keep me entertained for a couple more hours.
I have several new fears as well.
Yeah.
Me too.
Like an ultracentrifuge exploding in like a nearby county.
Yeah.
Yeah. I one of the things about moving is that I have my back to a window now. I got to change that, get behind as solid of a wall as I can.
Understood.
You get that lead plate up.
Exactly. Sort of explosive reactive armor like on Russian tanks. For when the test tube of homogenated rodent flies through the window at 5,000 miles an hour.
Oh God,
it's funny.
Our next episode will be on Chernobyl. Does anyone have any commercials before we go?
No, listen to Rail NASA. She said from across the room. Listen to Rail NASA.
Distant Nova.
Listen to Rail NASA.
Yeah, listen to Rail NASA. Buy my book as well, actually, please. Thanks to everyone who did. I had a very cool.
Buy the book.
I had a very cool launch event last night in our timeline, which was really fun in Houseman's in London, which have lots of copies of the book there. If you're not struggling to find it anywhere else, Houseman's near King's Cross, great. It was lovely. We ended up talking about gender in the context of Tech Bros. It was interesting. It was it was a great chat. So buy the book and also listen to Kill James Bond, listen to 10,000 Losses, listen to No Gods No Mares,
all the podcasts. Yeah.
All the podcasts. A smorgasbord of ear-based entertainment for your enjoyment.
And buy tickets for the Fillmore in Philadelphia.
You do that.
Or the first New York show. Or DC. Pretty please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Buy toys.
Buy toys.
Buy toys.
for children.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.